Have you ever listened or read or heard a mission story of somebody who did great things and thought, that's lovely, but God could never do that with me? My story this morning will help you to see that He can use anyone if you're willing. And it comes from the island of Papua. So can you show us the map? Yeah. And I just wanted to put up a map so you can see where it is. This is the country of Indonesia, and it's just above Australia. And the island of Papua is on the far east, and it's divided in two politically. So the island of Papua New Guinea, which a lot of you have seen pictures and heard about and everything, is on the right side, but the left side belongs to Indonesia. And it's still the same people, the same geography as the Papua New Guinea side, but politically it belongs to Indonesia. And I had the privilege of living there for 9.5 years before I came to OA. And my husband worked there as a mission pilot. And in the kind of the middle of that whole island is a huge mountain range with mountains that go up to 17,000 feet. So there's a year-round glacier, and it's some very rugged and wild terrain that's only accessible by airplane, and even many villages don't have airstrips. And when they do build airstrips, it can take 10 to 20 years for them to actually build them because they don't have big equipment there. They use stone axes and it's crazy, you know, the conditions they have, and they have huge rocks, and you can see kind of the mountains and the landscape there. So my husband would fly to all these various places, and one day he was asked to fly to a new airstrip that they had just opened. Nobody had landed there yet. And they said, please, pilot, we're ready. Come land in our village. So this particular village, by the name of Suminka, was in the lowlands. So presumably it was a bit easier for them to build their runway, but it had still taken them many years. And so he went there. It was right on the border. You saw that line on the map where it was between the two countries. This village is right on the border. And so he flew over there. He flew over the village a few times, looked the runway over. He flew low over the runway. Everything was looking good. He probably, I don't know for sure, I wasn't there, but he probably actually touched the ground a time or two to feel how soft it was. And eventually he was able to land. And so you can imagine how excited the people were. If you guys had worked on building an airstrip for 5 or 10 or how many ever years, and finally the day came when the airplane landed, it would be super duper exciting. And I'm sure the people were dancing and shouting and singing and carrying on. And suddenly it got quiet. And then they all started jabbering away in their language. So there's over 200 languages just on our side of the island alone. And so, of course, my husband didn't speak their language. So he wondered what had happened, because this was not normal. The shouting and the screaming and the dancing, that was normal. But when they all stopped and then started jabbering away, he knew something was up. Eventually, they said to him, "Pilot, is this an Adventist airplane?" And if you look at the picture of the airplane, on the tail, can you see anything that might identify it as an Adventist airplane? The 3 angels logo is there. And so they were like, "Is this an Adventist airplane?" And he said, "Well, yes. How did you know?" And they, mentioned or something. And then they were like, "We're Adventists too." And he was shocked because we didn't know about any Adventists in this part of the country. And he was like, "What do you mean you're Adventists?" And they said, "Well, let us tell you a story." And so they told him this story a couple years before, because it was on the border between Papua New Guinea and Indonesia. A gentleman from Papua New Guinea who was an Adventist had come across to their village, and he came to share the gospel with them. And he got there and he got sick. He got malaria, and he was very sick. And all day long, he would be sick and in bed. But in the evening, when it was time for, he went out to a mango tree to have a evangelistic meeting or whatever you want to call it, but to tell the people about Jesus. He would get up, he would bathe, and he would have enough strength and energy to go share with the people, and then he would go back to bed. And he did this for a week or two, and the people weren't very interested. They didn't seem to care. He was discouraged, and he eventually went home. And so he didn't think any more of it, and neither did the people. But in this village, well, actually on the whole island, one of their favorite things to do is, and one of their favorite foods is wild pork. And so they love to go hunting for wild pigs. And they had in this village a dog that was a very good hunting dog. And this is Dolby. Now you guys, some of you know this story. This is Dolby. He was the best hunting dog in the village of Suminka. And so one day after the Pastor Moses was the man who had been there with them, after he left, they saw Dolby running down the village. And they thought that he had caught a scent and he was going to go lead them to a wild pig. So they all went running after him. But no, Dolby went to the mango tree. And he laid down. And he sat there. And he waited until afternoon. And then he went back home. And they were like, well, that's interesting. What was that about? And they realized that it was Sabbath. But they didn't think any more about it until the next Sabbath. Dolby did the same thing. He started heading out of town. They all ran to follow him. He took them to the mango tree, and he laid down. They thought, this is crazy. Dolby is like he's going to church. And they did go hunting some days, and Dolby would go hunting with them. But he used to get his special part of the pig, whatever that was, I don't know. And now he wouldn't eat it. And they thought, this is weird. Pastor Moses told us that we shouldn't eat pork, and Dolby is taking us to church, and he's not eating pork anymore. What is going on? And so they started to study, and they learned that the things that Pastor Moses was telling them was true, and they were like, this is crazy. Dolby is a Seventh-day Adventist, and they ended up deciding that they should be too because of Dolby. So my lesson to you this morning is, if God can use a dog to teach people about Jesus and to follow his way, I'm pretty sure he can use you too.